my talk is also about how to extend Neos. But as a coder, I'm pretty lazy, and if I need to extend something, the first question I ask to myself is, did I have this piece of code in my other project? Or did some company somewhere over in the internet solve this specific problem? Because if you reuse an external service, you don't have to maintain it, and you are a pretty happy developer, and you can focus on business value for your client. So this is me. You know me or you don't know me. If you don't know me, come on to drink a beer later. I own a little web agency in Lausanne. We work mainly with Neos currently. We have tons of Type 3 CMS historical projects, but we can start new project only on Neos currently. I build websites since quite some time. Do you remember this one? Back then, a website was something like an island. When you finish your static HTML markup, the project is finished, the content will be more or less never updated. You don't have an editor that calls you at 7 o'clock in the evening to say that the CMS doesn't work anymore. So that was quite like really a pleasant time. But now everything changed, and everything changed quite fast. Do you remember this project when you pitch your project and the client asks just this small question? Oh yes, you know, I need just a search engine. You know, a search engine, really simple. Just one field, like Google. Wow, pretty cool. Yes, that looks really simple. But if you start to build search engine from scratch today, you are really crazy. You cannot do that on your own. So you need external service integration, and in the case of search engine, it will be Elasticsearch, because it offers you so many powerful features that your client will not have the budget to pay. The client is not aware that Google spends the budget of the current project every morning before drinking a first coffee, just for this single input field. So what is an external service? I think there is two different kinds of external service. One is the service that you control, like Elasticsearch, with a self-hosted system. And another type of external service, it's a service provided by an external company that you can connect over an API and that you pay every request or a monthly fee. Why you need an external service? You need external service in many cases because the project doesn't have the budget to build the feature, because you don't have time to build the feature, or because you are just too lazy to build the feature. The first reason is don't try to reinvent the wheel every time. The wheel worked quite nicely since some century, and I think it's enough to have one type of wheel. Google looks simple, but it's not easy to do. Shopping system looks simple, but it's pretty hard to do. Hell is in the details. You can say, okay, oh yes, my client needs a shopping system. Let's just start something from scratch because my client has some really specific requirements. Yes, but the specific requirement is the simple part. The most complex part is the general requirement that the shopping system needs to have. You don't have to spend a huge budget at the beginning of the project. You just pay as you go. So your client can test if they really need this feature, how they can upgrade the website and improve this feature without spending 10,000 € before launching the website. So I have some small example of external service, but there are many, 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 many more. This one is an American company. In fact, it's a side project of a company that I forgot the name completely. It can produce preview of any kind of document, like you upload your Excel sheet and you receive a nice JPEG image for the preview of this Excel sheet. It looks really simple, but behind the scenes there is something like a farmer server with OpenOffice, word processing, and they even support Photoshop file and really crazy format. So here is a small gift for you. You can go to our GitHub page, and we built an integration for Neos. It's compatible with Neos 2.1, and we use a new feature that lands in Neos 2.1 named Thumbnail Generator, where you can register your own classes, your own PHP class, to handle the thumbnail generation. So you can get an image, detect the format, for example, if it's a really exotic format not supported by Imagic, and you can choose to call an external service to get the image. We built this package for one of our projects where we have something like thousands of PDF, and some of them are not compatible with Imagic, or Imagic is not compatible with the full spec of the PDF. So we fall back to file preview IO if Imagic is not able to process the PDF locally. Let's, for example, a preview of an audio file. Try to do that with Imagic. That one is also about file transformation. If your client produces some, I don't know, Word document, but you want to provide download link in OpenOffice format and in PDF format. I say at the beginning of the talk that a coder is pretty lazy, but remember that editors are lazy too. If you can help editor to save time, you make an editor really happy. We are not only the only lazy people in the world. There's tons of lazy people everywhere. They support a ton of formats. The pricing is really, really cheap. So it's really a cool service. This one is more or less, how to say, e-commerce has an API. So they just provide the catalog and link, stuff like this, order, customer management, special price, all these fancy things that you can have in an e-commerce solution. And they provide a PHP library, but they also provide a JavaScript library. So you can have something rendering in the backend from Neos and something rendered in the JS on the front end to handle some specific case like pricing for the special client that come again or that just leave your website or whatever. This is the last one I want to speak about because I think this one will change tons of things. It's a more or less new service from Amazon, named Lambda, where you can, it's compatible with JavaScript, Python, and maybe something else, Scala, or JavaScript and Python for sure. And you can put your JavaScript on S3, so the storage from Amazon, and you can connect an URL to this piece of JavaScript. So you don't have a running server, you pay nothing until you have a request. And it scales automatically. It's highly scalable, really highly scalable. So there is a huge movement behind this named the serverless infrastructure, where you just produce code and don't run server until you have a request. That's a nice way to handle external service or reuse piece of code between projects. But now how to integrate those services? I think that Neos is a really good place to integrate service because of our rendering stack. TypoScript makes things so much easier. That's an example based on a website. I don't speak about this website. As an editor, I need to preview link to external website on my blog post. You see sometimes this huge blog post with a nice block in the middle with a photo from an external website and the title and some. As a developer, you start to think, yeah, pretty cool, I can build yet another web scraper. Don't do that. Web scraper is even more difficult than search engine because you need to pass HTML code. You don't have proper API to get the content from those websites. So there is a really cool service named Embedly. You have a free tier that is lots enough if you enable content caching in EOS. And that's the small PHP class that implements a heal helper. That's the only code I've write to integrate embedly inside my EOS installation. I just implement this oembed, where I pass the link to the article I want to preview, and I use the official PHP embedly API. So it's pretty cool. I have something like 5 lines of PHP to maintain. My laziness is happy. And that's the TypoScript object that render these things. So I get the response from my oembed method, and I just have a case to say, OK, if this is an article, I want to have this TypoScript object that render it. So it's pretty slim, and it's an example with an article from the Spiegel Online, where the content element in the node in EOS just store the URL to this resource, and when it's rendered the first time, it caches the content locally. So you have two benefits by caching the content. If the external service fails or is down, your website continues to work. You have a local cached version. And if you use a search engine like Elasticsearch, Simple Search, or whatever search, you have the data locally, so you can search this article from your website. And this is also open source, so feel free to use it, send some requests. Pull requests are welcome. So, look like this world is definitively full of unicorns. I'm one of those unicorn teams member, and quite happy to be. But, even the best unicorns can be quite confused sometimes, because shit happens. And when shit happens on system that you control, you can try to solve the shit. But if shit happens on a service that you don't control, you need to support the shit. But you don't have any possibility to solve this problem. So here is the pitfall and the pain point about working with external service in our experience. If you choose to work with an external service for something like file preview I/O, it's pretty simple. It's not a mission-critical feature, so you don't take too much care about this vendor lock-in. But if you decide to work with molten e-commerce API, and your clients make tons of money with this application, you are locked with this vendor. If at some point this nice startup from the Silicon Valley was acquired by Amazon that just killed the product, it kicks your ass too. So you need to be really clear with your client that if they choose this path, they save money upfront. They don't have to develop everything, but they have the risk to be forced to change the stack at some point if something bad happened to the company running the service. So don't forget this. Yes, it's a risk. You need to take care of this. As I said before, external downtime is quite a pity. But anyway, most of the service run quite fine. That's mainly run by big startup with nice funding, a nice team, and they try to have zero downtime release and fallback server and load balancing. So you don't have tons of problem about downtime. But if you give some SLA to your client and you integrate an external service, check if your SLA is compatible with the SLA provided by the external service. If not, you can have some trouble with your client in the future. Pricing. Some services are pretty simple, like give me $10 per month and you can use my service for whatever you want. It's pretty cool. But some service like Amazon Lambda has a pricing model with such a level of complexity that needs an engineer to try to understand the amount of money we will pay. And for some clients, it's pretty difficult to sell a feature without giving them a budget. So, oh, but yes, you can use this Amazon Lambda thing. It can save tons of money upfront, but I'm not sure how many money you will pay every month because it depends on the load. So take care about the pricing. Take care about the pricing change. Don't sign a contract for 10 years. If the pricing change, you need to change the pricing for your client too. And that's the parts that make my laziness unhappy. Working with external service creates dependency for your development stack. You need to be online to work, so no more work in your Swiss chalet in the Alps without any 3G connection. And another pain point was this hard to code is the feedback loop can be pretty slow. We work with a project for a client where we integrate this Trello, I don't remember, this phone call API system. So you have to phone a call number, 81 and 85 and 86, and when you 89, this call back a webhook on your web application to generate something. It's pretty cool for the customer, but when you code, doing the phone number, hitting 1, hitting 2, hitting 3, and hitting 9 can be quite painful. So, oh, my webhook doesn't work, I did a syntax error, so let's call back again and see if it happened better. That could be really difficult, but there is a nice open source tool named ngrok. It's some kind of Swiss Army knife that you need to have. That's one of those tools that you don't want to lose. It can make your local virtual host available on the internet. And it works behind firewall. It works behind an AT. It worked really nicely. At the beginning, we used this service just to have the feedback from customer. Like, OK, I'm coding something. I start in Grok. I send a link to the customer and just, can we discuss this feature? Because I'm not sure if it worked correctly for you. It's really, really nice to share your local development environment with your client. But it can also share your system with Aux and system. Look at the URL. It's cloudbutler.ngrok.io. So you call ngrok.io and you end up on your local machine. And ngrok has this nice web interface where you have a log of all the requests that come to your system. So in the case of this phone call API that's called a webhook on my local machine, I will see this GET request. And on the right part, I see the payload. So I can start to understand, yes, my webhook doesn't work because the external service don't use the correct key or don't provide me the correct data. It's an amazing way to debug external request. And you have on the right the button that can save you tons of time. You can just replay a request. So in this case, ngrok will just replay the request generated by the external service, and you can click on it until it works. That's a really cool feature. And what about automation? Here I discuss more about integration system in top of news. But what about automation? We discuss about this mixed decks vision of the product. And we start experimenting things on top of news. It's currently not released because it's currently quite of a mess in terms of code. But we start to discover some best practice, and we want to build something where you can create a small class that do really specific things like publishing a node, send an email, post a tweet, something really modular, and connect those classes to webhook and supporting authentication or request rate limitation, something like this on top of this. With that in place, you can start to trigger something on Neos based on some activity on Alfresco. If a client just upload a new file in Alfresco and validate the version 0.1, you can call Neos, yes, I have a new file in the Alfresco, please upload it to the website, replace this resource with the previous version, and send an email to the website team to say that the new resource is available on Neos. So that's currently the code name of this project. It's named Cloud Butler. Another idea that we have, but that we need a bit more works, it's generating trigger based on temporal information. Like, we have the question from a customer that you need to highlight some tweets on the homepage, some tweets where the company is seated, for example, but you don't want to highlight any tweets, like the complaint tweets that end up on the homepage of the website. You want to avoid that. So you want to highlight a tweet, but only if this tweet has more than 2 retweets, 3 likes in the last 7 days. So we need to find a way to store temporal information from external data. So try to synchronize data from external source and generate trigger based on this to help editor, because editor doesn't have the time to go to the homepage every day and just check the Twitter feed. Oh yes, this one matched, and let me copy paste something on the homepage. It's just boring job, and we need to avoid this kind of hassle for our editor. We have this small project where we collaborate a bit with Rance. It's basically a cron scheduler where you can execute code on a regular basis. It could be pretty useful to do maintenance tasks or to get information from outside. And for synchronization data from external source, we have really don't use this one in production because it's really highly experimental and break tons of time. But for example, here, your editor are able to create this Spiegel online page where you just copy-paste the URL of the RSS feed or Atom feed and just forgot this page. Every hour or every day, the scheduler will check the feed and import new documents on the system automatically. So you have news that start aggregating content from external source, and you can use node reference to just seed this article, or you can use your search engine internally to search this kind of tools. It's pretty useful to have, for example, the last release of Flow or Neos on an external website, on a company website, and just publish news automatically when we publish something new on Neos.io. That's how it looks. And on the inspector, you can enable the synchronization or decide on the frequency. So, yes, sharing is definitively part of our DNA. We do open source since more than 10 or 12 years. We will continue to do that. And we love client projects that help us to support our open source effort. We try to, I think that's as a community, as the Neos project community, it's also our responsibility to try to educate our clients. Because tons of agency and tons of clients just use open source because there is no fee to use open source. In fact, that's not the right choice to choose open source. You can choose an open source tools because you will have new feature for free. That's pretty cool. Many other people will contribute to the products, and your own project will enjoy those new features. But client and agency need to be aware that somebody has to pay for this code. It's you, it's me. So now with every project, we try to have a long discussion sometime with clients to educate them to, are you okay to sponsorize this feature? Because it looks like, oh yes, this redirection that you need can fit in the core. I think we can open an issue, but are you okay to sponsorize 1 week or 2 weeks of job to just polish this feature and having a better CMS? So an open source solution has no owner, is owned by everybody, but everybody needs to be responsible. And if you receive something for free, feel free to send something on the other side. Just doing some review, writing documentation, tweeting, blogging, speaking. Yes, be the word. And if you pass by Lausanne for holiday or for works, just ping us. We have a really cool coffee machine. We work in a really nice co-working space. If you want to stay 1 or 2 days, we have enough room to offer you an office, an internet connection, and to speak about stuff. Thank you. And Just one more thing. I will try a live demonstration, so maybe it will just break, or maybe it will work. That's an early version of the Cloud Battler project. I love this background. So that's basically you don't see anything. Oh, how can I do that? Not exactly what I want. Oh, where is it? Yeah. So yes, you see something more interesting. Here we have a nice demo site, and we have this sharing page. In my company, we spend quite some time just sharing links that we found on the internet that we found interesting. We do some content creation. And when we share a link, we copy-paste something on our website, and we push something on Twitter, and we push something on Facebook. And it spent quite some time. 5 minutes to read an article and 10 minutes to sharing. It's not fair. Definitely not fair. So if we go to a nice Swiss website, it's oh, yes, an article on Chernobyl, really cool to share. Let's have something pretty more friendly. Yeah, something about mountain. That sounds like a cool stuff to share. So we just copy the link. And we start Slack. And just to showcase, because ngrok is pretty cool. So that's how ngrok works. Now I have my random, and I can say, hey, please, Slack, share me that. And if I'm lucky, timeout was reached. Sorry. Thanks. So the timeout is not my issue. It's an issue from Slack that doesn't allow a comment to run for too long time. Now I can get back to my website and update the sharing page. And I have these nice things that I have. And it's on Neos, but if I add a new tag, like Twitter on Facebook, it will be also published to Twitter and Facebook on the company, agency, website, and whatever. So it's a nice way to play with content. And if you are interested by this project, feel free to contact me. I think that we can open source something during the next month, something before summer. Cool, so thank you again. Happy then.